for an important training session for NEBOSH IG1 and IG2, especially exam preparation training. Because ultimately, the days we invest in our training, like 10 days and study a lot, ultimately the purpose is to achieve maximum marks in the exam also. Even though the real purpose is to be the best safety leader at our project site or to join in the safety profession, but most importantly, uh, we truly need the fruit against our hard work. This is quite natural, and nothing wrong into it. Like if someone claimed that he has planned to achieve 100% marks in the exam, of course, for getting happiness after great success, everyone's right is there. But it's entirely a game of planning and preparation. Same like, before we start any project, we plan it, we execute it in the right direction. And we also double check that our work is well done. If some errors, some mistakes, some gaps are there, so we remove them. So what I mean is the PDCA cycle still can be applied, for our IG1 and even for IG2 actually. Up to 1st December, still we have sufficient time. So, but today, why that training is so much important, I'm going to share plenty of key kind of, tactics or techniques, how you're going to achieve this IG1 and IG2 exams, inshallah, with a solid professional approach. But bear in mind, whatever techniques we're going to discuss today is a required practice actually. That is why I'll be sharing one scenario and we'll study together the scenario, and along with that, several questions would be asked. And based on those questions, how we have to give answers. And within our answers, what is the best approach, how that answer should be written technically, logically, in line with our study material or based on your solid research, even. And bear in mind, nothing is impossible. If your target is, mashallah, to achieve 100% marks, just don't bring any doubt that you can't achieve 100% marks. And 100% marks, even if you achieve later on, mashallah, above 90%, so still you can consider is equal to 100%. But what I mean is, keep your target high, your aim high, and then see Allah's blessings, inshallah. So, some of the tips I'm quoting from NEBOSH itself. What they're telling is, give yourself the greatest chance of success and make sure you are well prepared before the day of your examination. And what is the best strategy? Study and revise. This is guided or recommended by NEBOSH directly. Make sure you thoroughly understand the topic and that you apply your knowledge to the unfamiliar scenario presented in the examination. And the scenario is more like a risky scenario. Some good things gonna be shared within the scenario, some bad things. So some issues will be highlighted in the scenario, some legal compliance issues, some sort of training issues, might be proper accident investigation was not there, or might be it was excellent all the way. So what I mean is kind of a mixture. So from element 1 to 4, we truly need to be capable to apply our knowledge in the answers, even though the answer have to be in line with the scenario, but still starting from element 1 to element 4 is all about relevant to IG1. That means in our exam, maximum words we can pick from those 4 elements. Now, there is another suggestion from NEBOSH that you have to prepare an environment that is comfortable with the desk and chair. Make sure you have got room for your notes, books, and other resources, and is free from distractions. much better is to have a silent room and no distraction, no disturbance, at least for those 24 hours, because you'll be definitely reading and understanding the scenario and finding and researching plenty of options to give the right answer. Maybe a bonanza of information you'll collect, but later on, what diamond words you need to choose from those data and putting into your answer, that is the key. That is why this special training session you can consider is arranged, just to give some better insights how you have to achieve your exams even, inshallah. Now, is well lit and has a good internet connection available. The most important one is not too hot or not too cold, and you surely have to familiarize yourself with the online examination platform before the day of your examination. And in your email, the moment you'll get the scenario or the questions, in other words, surely they will give a lot of uh, steps to be followed from your side. How you're gonna upload your exam, how you're gonna start your exam, everything they'll guide, including your login ID and password, everything they will be. It will be sending directly to you, not to us, to you actually. Now, several students I noted, they have plenty of plans. Like one way around, they are doing NEBOSH IGC, then they have some other study challenges. But the best strategy is once you decided that you are going to do NEBOSH IGC or NEBOSH IG1 and IG2, then make sure your focus is only one course actually, rather than distracting with so many other training sometime, and that would be a terrible reason of distracting your mind and not putting the whole focus actually. So I'm going to share top 5 important tips for IG1 OB exam access. Even though it's an open book exam which enables you to sit your NEBOSH assessment on your own, usually in your own home or another safe and suitable location where you can concentrate. So the key part is a place where you can focus, where you can apply your power of focus. So the number one tip is be careful with the polarity of your answer. Be careful with the polarity of your answer. Like, are you trying to give a positive answer? For example, adequate training, presence of top management and meetings, leading by example, proper safety audits, effective accident investigation, implementation of several corrective preventive actions, reporting of near misses. Are you going to start your answer with positive vibes and positive words? Or you are just going to start your answer against any question with some negative vibes or words? For example, oh, in the scenario you have noticed lack of leadership is there, inadequate result. Even though those issues would be there, it depends, what type of scenario is written by NEBOSH examiners, but still there would be some positive things and some negative things even in the scenario related to the safety system. But your answer must be started up with some positive vibes rather than starting your answer directly with negative kind of words, or like example is given, or in line with the scenario, the lack of leadership or inadequate resources or high number of accidents are quite clear. So the company is not doing anything and it's a non-compliance and this company have a poor safety system. I hope you got the point. So you're not going to talk everything in negative phases. You truly need to learn how to start with positive words, and most importantly, the moment you are going to share even some negative things, which are already highlighted in the scenario that company was non-complying, with several areas, but those negative points, how you are going to explain in a positive manner, that is the key technique. Now, the way you present your answer makes a big difference. So that is why the first technique and the tip is be careful with the polarity of your answer. Now, do not confuse the task with the question itself, because in each question, before the question, they will mention the heading. Heading mean in shape of task, like task is influencing health and safety culture. This is just an example of task, influencing health and safety culture. But our focus should be the question, not the heading. No doubt, heading will give us some sort of direction, but our key purpose is to give the answer against the question. So, what should be our real understanding? The question itself, like what are the negative indicators of safety culture at the warehouse? 10 numbers are there. What are the negative indicators of safety culture at the warehouse? So the task is saying influencing health and safety culture. That what exactly we have to do to influence and create a safety culture, and that is not the question. Several guys I noted, they just confused with the task and the question itself. Task, they just like gave the heading, but into that we truly need to understand technically, logically, the real crux of the question, what exactly he's asking. And accordingly, our answer must be straightforward. Like, what are the negative indicators of safety culture at the warehouse? In this case, focus on answering the actual question. Don't be much distracted by the task or the headline. That is number 2 tip. But practice makes the man perfect. I'm sharing the techniques. If you don't apply, don't practice, of course, nothing would be beneficial. But that is why I added one scenario also. Like after these techniques, I'll be sharing the scenario, question and answers, just to have a clear understanding, inshallah. Now, number 3 tip is do not overthink or overanalyze the scenario. Several trainers, even they'll be putting a lot of pressure, or you have to understand the scenario deeply, and you must analyze, but not over. Otherwise, overthinking sometimes make us terribly confused actually. So don't overthink and don't overanalyze the scenario. Scenario is quite straightforward. Questions are quite straightforward. So our focus, our words, our answer just must be in line with the question and in line with the scenario, getting help through some international regulations, through some certain NGOs or kind of regulatory bodies or even legal bodies. If we are getting some help just to support our answer from their side, their materials, and those words also we are going to type or put into our answer, then make sure you must have to give the reference, that your answer, even 2-3 lines you noted, that is as per OSHA regulations, then give that link there. That means the reference is important. Otherwise, if you are just putting all your answers based on your NEBOSH books or the presentation which I'm going to share after the training, if you're gonna get maximum material from here, then it's okay. Your reference is quite straightforward. RCC NEBOSH material, or the IG1 and IG2 books actually, or NEBOSH books in other words. But if you get any help from other sources, then make sure you give reference either from ILO, from WHO, from ISO, from API, from AST, or several standards are there, or regulatory bodies are there. Okay, so do not overthink or overanalyze the scenario. Usually the scenario will have a general negative or positive impression towards safety in a situation or an organization. So scenario basically would be highlighting one situation or overall the safety system of an organization. So, and sometime in the scenario you'll get several things positive related to safety system, and just few points negative which you truly need to disagree. because you can't agree with negative points. Oh, the company was doing something really good. Yes, you can start with positive vibes. Company, these are the things were being done according to the question and according to the scenario. But few of the below areas or falling areas still have a chance for further improvement. So even the negative things you need to try to highlight in positive way. And usually, let me give you one example. For example, if the question is asking you to evaluate if the company is doing enough safety auditing, then check the scenario and what you read is what you get. For example, if a question is asking you to evaluate if the company is doing enough safety auditing, that means sufficient, appropriate safety auditing, or productive or qualitative, then check the scenario and what you read is what you get. So there is no need to overanalyze and try to find minor evidence between the lines to prove the company is not doing well. Because we as a trainee, like going for NEBOSH exam, we are not there to prove that the company is terrible, company is wrong all the way. We are there just to be like very much straightforward, in line with the scenario, in line with the questions, and writing some words, the eye-catching words. In other, the examiner should feel that you are the best positive safety leader, rather than he gonna get picture you are a negative safety leader. So that perception, that kind of opinion shouldn't go in the mind of NEBOSH examiner actually. Number 4 tip is avoid giving introductory text that may not gain you marks actually. In other words, don't write unessential or irrelevant information, even sometime based on introduction, like take an example, like focus on the answer the question. For example, if the question is asking you to provide evidence from the scenario that the company is doing safety auditing. If the question is asking you to provide evidence from the scenario that the company is doing safety auditing, so no need to type 2 paragraphs explaining what is auditing, how it is being done, and this is unlikely to gain you any marks for sure, Like what is auditing, how are we going to perform it, what should be the qualities of the auditor, how the audit plan have to be prepared, what is the purpose of a pre-meeting, how to conduct the safety audit, and how are we going to go for closing. No, that was not the question, my friends. The question was pretty straightforward. In line with the scenario, prove and provide some evidences that the company was doing appropriate, productive, qualitative, or sufficient safety audit. They were not asking about unnecessary information actually. And to be very honest, they don't have time to study irrelevant information. Because if you are an auditor or you are the examiner, surely you will immediately, based on your experience, you will immediately judge, what caliber is there of the training, even by reading question number 1 and the answers against it. So choice is our, how we are going to convince the NEBOSH examiner that your words are the diamond words, your words are exactly technically, logically in line with the question, and also representing productively to the scenario also. Okay, so I repeat again, in your question, don't put any irrelevant information while giving the answer against any question. We are not there to write several things, and because there is a challenge to write 3,000 words and putting that pressure into your mind, and you are bringing a lot of irrelevant information that will not bring any mark, because every technical point you write there have one number. I repeat again, every technical point you're gonna write have one number. So it's a game of solid technical points against any question, but make sure it is purely in line with the scenario. Or if you are bringing any material from outside and you believe it is linked with the question, then make sure you give the source, you give the reference there. Otherwise your material or the books, that is the only reference you have. The last tip of NEBOSH IG1 OB exam is, it is much better if you can break down your answer into small paragraphs. Rather than writing long stories or lengthy paragraphs, better to make paragraphs like 3 lines, 4 lines, even putting one heading on that paragraph. So make it eye-catching. So the examiner would have a reason to give you the solid marks, mashallah. Like example is, each paragraph should have a heading of the point you are trying to deliver, in addition to some elaboration on this point. Example is going to be given in the next slide. Like this makes it easier for the examiner to find the keywords and answers worthy of marks. For example, legal purposes. This is the heading. To cover the employer's liability in case of accidents and occupational diseases to employees or others who may be affected by their activities. So we can put legal purposes, even we can make it underline. And if you believe within the paragraph, even something is very much important, no harm to underline. Because you truly want to make the key technical points eye-catching for the NEBOSH examiner. But make sure the words you are going to underline, they are surely have solid importance or kind of the crux of the paragraph. That is again required some sort of practice, and I'm going to share inshallah the scenario and with some answers and questions. Now, OB exam Q&A. You know what is goals? Golden opportunities allowing large successes. And what is success? Positive, accurate, precise, socially responsible professional assistance, actually. And before I share the scenario question and answers, let me share one of the important information from NEBOSH again, how they mark and what is their result process. You give answer paper and you submit online, and you submit your OB answer paper to online examination platform. Then what you do, you answer paper allocated to NEBOSH examiner. And it's hard to get information who is the examiner, NEBOSH examiner of your paper actually. It's really hard to find. Now marking, examiners read and mark your answer paper within the online examination platform. The marks are added up to produce your final mark. Still, just for quality assurance and validation of your exam, it would be given to quality assurance, like NEBOSH undertakes a 2 stages quality process. Clerically check on a selection of papers near to the pass marks to make sure marks have been totaled correctly and you receive the right result. Examiner check where NEBOSH reviews a sample of papers to quality assurance, the standards of each examiner. And based on that, if everything goes well, they'll issue the result. Your result will be remained emailed directly to you within 50 working days of the examination. That is their criteria. And later on, they will issue the certificate within 20 working days of the result day. The certificate will be posted to your learning partner as well. The certificate you can collect from our training center, but the rest of the things will be communicated through email, like your exam sheet, your plenty of, if God forbid any malpractice they observe, still that will be communicated to you directly, through via email. And once your OB exam is submitted, and then you need to plan a kind of an interview date with your learning partner, mean with our institute. And what they're gonna do is they'll ask just few questions relevant to your submitted exam sheets, and just to reconfirm that this is your own work, not copy pasted from anyone, or no one helped you actually, because that is your job to make sure your work is means your work. So now I'm going to share the question and answers along with the scenario, the most important part, of course. Okay, guys, just a reconfirmation, the screen is visible to all of you, or should I make it little more zoom, Is it okay now? Yes, Mr. Farid, I'm going to do it actually. Is it okay now? Please reconfirm so we can start accordingly. Okay, thank you very much. So, first of all, bear in mind you'll get your online exam sheet for 24 hours. And some guidance to the learners about this sheet is this is open book examination. It is not invigilated, and you are free to use any learning sources to which you have access, and your course notes or even websites. By submitting this completed assessment for marking, you are declaring it is entirely your own work, knowingly claiming work to be your own when it is someone else's work is malpractice, which carries severe penalties, and this means that you must not collaborate with or copy work from others. Neither should you cut and paste blocks of text from the internet or other sources. So copy paste is not acceptable within your answer. Now, the examination begins with a realistic scenario, like we resolve day-to-day several issues at our project sites. So just from those kind of issues, they'll give some realistic scenario to set the scene. You will then need to complete a series of tasks based on the scenario. Each task will consist of one or more questions. Maybe one task, under one task, three different questions, or maybe two different questions, or maybe one question. So all tasks basically we have to complete. The marks available are shown in brackets to the right of each question or part of each question. This will help guide you to the amount of information required in your response. In general, 1 mark is given. Please, that is the most important one. 1 mark is given for each correct technical point that is clearly demonstrated in line with the scenario, in line with the question. So avoid writing too little, as this will make it difficult for the examiner to award marks. Single word answers or lists are unlikely to gain marks, as this would not normally be enough to show your understanding or a connection with the scenario. So your understanding actually, that is the real purpose of this exam, scenario based or to see either your concepts are clear, you are the best safety leader, you know how to prepare the policies, procedures, different formats, how to implement, what is the purpose of trainings, auditing, how you're going to make sure things are in line with your safety system, and most importantly the accident near misses or several other issues are well being reported and investigated. You have a complete system for every nook and corner or kind of activities and processes of your business, so that your understanding basically is being evaluated. That is why they are giving a realistic scenario, and based on that they really want you to resolve through different tasks and prove that you are the best safety leader, mashallah. Now, you are not expected to write more than 3,000 words in total. So we truly have to divide. Like if total 7 questions are there, or seven tasks are there, and within 7 tasks, you have 10 questions, total 10 questions. That means the logic says for one question, at least 300 words. But if one task have 3 questions and also required 300 words, then we have to distribute the words as per the marks. Actually, if the marks of one question is 10 marks, and then the second question have 5 marks, then the third have again 5 marks, so one task with 3 questions have 20 marks. So then overall accordingly we need to divide the words, like maybe 150 or 175 or maybe 200 words for 10 marks, and then remaining 50-50 we can create for other 2 questions. But ultimately our challenge, our target must be to write 3,000 words, but it's sanctioned in line with the scenario, technically sound, because each technical point have 1 mark, and try to demonstrate your time and word count proportionally across all tasks. It is not recommended that you use the answer template. Please attempt all tasks. So let's start with the scenario, just an example, and I hope it will clear a lot of your concepts, inshallah. Several people, they truly have a very terrible, kind of lacking point, unable to understand the scenario. Even though it's not like we are not like going to over evaluate or overthink or over analyze, of course, but at least our capability must be in line to understand what exactly he's talking about in the scenario. Like, you are the health and safety advisor, so clear statement that within the scenario you are the health and safety advisor, not the safety technician, not the safety officer, not the safety supervisor, not the safety manager. You are the health and safety advisor. So your role is well planted in the scenario. And what is the company? Is a large market. For a large market, supermarket store that employs 80 permanent workers. So within the store, total 80 permanent workers are there. The workforce is comprised of workers day and night shifts, so 2 shifts, day and night. We are understanding the scenario. You are the health and safety advisor. What type of company is there? It's a large supermarket. Total workers, 80 workers, shifts, 2 shifts, day and night, and also have shift managers and a store manager. So leaders are quite clear as shift managers and a store manager. Now, the store manager's working hours overlap the 2 shifts. The store is just one of 400 under the same ownership. So this large supermarket have 400 different stores, but you are a health and safety advisor of that one store out of 400. The store manager is mainly concerned with keeping shelves fully stocked with goods to meet customer demand and ambitious sale targets. Ambitious, that means your capacity is to sell 10 pieces, but you are ambitious to sell 100 pieces. That is why the word ambitious, technically we truly need to understand That means the sales targets are beyond their capacity even. When not in their office, they spend the rest of their time walking up and down the goods aisles, checking for empty shelves. This supermarket was listed in the top 10 for sales last year. So more higher brand you are there in the market, more precious in the mind, because you surely need to maintain the credibility of your brand. And if demand is going high, so ultimately you need to increase your capacity. You can't give excuses actually as a brand. And also you are in the top 10, so you don't want to lose your position in the market. And the store manager want to do, this is basically why I'm focusing more on those points. This is giving us some reasons to think that the company was under pressure, under high sale targets and brand goodwill. They truly have a strong goodwill in the market. So that means the certain pressures from the top management, and there is a trickle down effect. If top management is facing some pressures, maybe demand and supply or the customer expectations whatsoever, so that pressure is going to have trickle down effect, maybe positive, maybe negative. It entirely depends on the several factors. Now top 10 for sale last year, and the store manager wants to do even better this year. So they have told shift manager that they do not care. A very terrible statement. They do not care how it is done, but the supermarket must be in top 5 this year for everyone to receive their bonus. And this is not wrong, by the way, to be very honest. Like, we want to expand, we truly want to be bigger and bigger in the market, but not by killing people, not by violating safety regulations, not by damaging the environment. Okay. What I mean is nothing wrong to it, but make sure you have sufficient resources, human capital, your storage capacities, your production capacities. It's all okay. Then no harm to put more targets. Now, as a result of high demand leading up to a very busy national holiday, and now the national holiday is also there, 20 additional temporary employees have been recruited. That means the new brains came inside. The new brains, that means they are not trained like the regular employees, they are the contractual temporary employees. So before starting work, the temporary workers have a very brief induction consisting of just 2 minutes video explaining the company values. However, there are no written job descriptions and limited instruction or training about how to do the work. There is very limited supervision. There are also no written training records for their workers. There are also no written training records for their workers. The temporary workers are unaware of what? Health and safety policy. And most importantly, how to report any issues, defects, problems to their shift managers. They don't know, because we didn't train them. They are immediately put to the work in busy areas where they are needed most, such as shelf stacking and transporting, especially the empty cardboard boxes to a storage area. For compacting, so now compacting means the compacting machine is getting involved. So until now we got what is your role? You are the safety advisor. What is the name? Like, it's a supermarket type of industry. How many regular employees they have? 80 workers. And because of high pressure, being in top 10, having 2 shifts, even with shift managers and store managers, now they decided to bring 20 more employees just to be in the top 5, ultimately within this year or the next year. And now one machine is added, the compacting machine, because empty boxes, cardboards, they need to take them up, compact, create some bales and put on the pallet, wrap, and might be selling, or that's another, So let's study further. They are told not to operate the compactor. Even those 20 employees were told. Not trained, just informed, not consulted, just informed. They are told not to operate the compactor. It is dangerous and has been the subject of previous enforcement visits. So one enforcement visit was also done. Now, as part of the supermarket's drive to be more environmentally responsible, they have a large compactor like baling machine. This is used to compact waste cardboard packaging so that it takes up such less space when it is stored and transported. Now, the compactor comprises of 3 sections arranged vertically. At the top is an enclosed hydraulic ramp. So hydraulic energy is there. In the center is an opening and about chest height through which the cardboard is fed. The opening is guarded by a safety gate. So safety gate is also there. At the bottom, resting on the ground, is a chamber in which the cardboard is compacted by the hydraulic run, because hydraulic energy to press, okay, to compact. The contents of the chamber can be accessed through a safety door on the front of the machine. Under normal circumstances, the authorized operator manually opens the safety gate, and feeds waste cardboard into the machine through the opening, which then falls into the chamber below. When the chamber is full, only the authorized operator closes the safety gate across the opening above and starts the compactor using control buttons on the side of the machine. This causes the vertical, not horizontal, the vertical hydraulic ramp to move down, compacting the cardboard into the bales in the chamber before returning back up to its starting position. An alarm sound to indicate the process is finished. So the alarm sound was also there that the process is finished. That is good, like some sort of safety features were there. Now the authorized operator then opens the chamber safety door, binds the bale of cardboard with wire and moves it onto the pallets where it is stored for eventual pickup by a recycling contractor. Now, the gate and door are fitted with a safety protection device. That means in normal circumstances, the hydraulic ramp cannot operate unless both are closed actually. So this is a good safety feature again. I repeat again, the gate and the door are fitted with a safety protection device. That means in normal circumstances, the hydraulic ramp cannot operate unless both are closed. Some months ago, the store manager had arranged for the compactor installer to train shift managers and experienced workers on the use of compactor. You then help the trained workers to complete a compactor risk assessment. So this is a good thing. They conducted a compactor risk assessment. The plan was that following on from the risk assessment, the day shift supervisor would develop an SOP, like safe operating procedure. Even though the compactor was in use, but no SOP. SOP was still under development, for the machine. And however, this supervisor retired and left the organization before the SOP was completed and authorized. So no SOP was yet prepared or approved or even implemented. As a result, some workers did not fully understand the SOP and often sought clarification from the day shift or the night shift manager. This was viewed as a complaint by the respective shift manager. Now, whenever workers raised any safety concern, the response was usually the threat of discipline in the form of formal warning, loss of bonus, dismissal, and replacement by other more willing workers. So workers are basically threatened not to complain actually. So just compromise with safety regulations or compromise with safety, especially at the compactor. Compactor means the smallest mistake is all over. So at the beginning of the day shift, the shift manager was told that the compactor safety protection device had stopped working. At the beginning of the day shift, the shift manager was told that the compactor safety protection device had stopped working. The compactor continued to operate even when the safety gate was open. Now, the shift manager tried to telephone the installation company for most of the day and only got an answer towards the end of the shift. So, the installation company told them that they could not send an engineer to fix it for at least 24 hours. So 24 hours, this compactor is in a danger zone, must never be used. But this was relayed to the store manager who told workers in the compactor area only not to use the machine until it had been fixed. So this was a kind of a positive sign from the store manager because he requested rather than isolated, rather than put lockout tag out, rather than quarantine this area or putting a big board, this machine is under maintenance or required maintenance, or nobody is going to use it. And you as a health and safety advisor also can support that particular action, right? Neither the store manager nor the day shift manager revisited the compactor area. So kind of might be they're going to be busy in some other areas, but that area was neglected. The highly sensitive area, the compactor area, was not revisited by the shift manager or even to the store manager of the supermarket. At shift handover, the day shift manager simply told the night shift manager that the compactor was faulty and it would be fixed the next day. At the shift handover, the day shift manager simply told the night shift manager that the compactor was faulty and it would be fixed the next day. At the beginning of the night shift, an experienced worker with a young temporary worker took a large pile of waste cardboard boxes to the compactor. Although warning signs specified unauthorized workers only to use this compactor, the experienced worker loaded the compactor with the cardboard and then told the temporary worker to operate the controls on the compactor. That was the terrible mistake. Even though, first of all, this compactor shouldn't be in use at all. Top management should take it so serious to stop the operation until it is fixed. Even 24 hours is there. How come that area can be approached by the experienced worker along with the helper also? And how an experienced worker can tell to the helper to operate, the machine while he was not trained, not authorized, and even doesn't fit to the safety regulations also. After a short while, the machine stopped with the hydraulic ram down on top of some compacted cardboard. The experienced worker saw that the compactor was jammed, as it often did. So immediately open the safety gate and reach inside to try and clear the jam actually. The compactor restarted suddenly, crushing the worker's hand. The temporary worker called the emergency services directly as they did not know what else to do. And there was no first aider. Another opportunity for improvement that there is no first aider working on the shift at the time of the accident. No, the good thing is the injured worker was immediately taken to the hospital and required amputation of their lower arm. The temporary worker was distressed and advised to go home because he was shocked. As soon as the night shift manager found out about the accident, they telephoned the store manager. The store manager told them to do nothing and said that they would start an investigation the following morning and that this was no reason to delay fixing the faulty compactor as already arranged. Now, the following morning, you, the safety advisor, are asked to carry out an accident investigation by the store manager. You have been warned not to spend too much time. That means a threat to you also. You have been warned not to spend too much time on it so that the store can go back to the normal as quickly as possible to hit those sales targets. So the focus was sales targets. You strongly disagree. That is your strong commitment and kind of straightforward leadership and safety. So you strongly disagree with this attitude and argue that it is a serious accident and needs to be investigated properly. You ask the store manager why the investigation has been left until now, and they replied that you are responsible for such health and safety matter. So it is your job, not theirs. So you inform the store manager that due to the injuries sustained, the accident needs to be reported to the enforcement authorities, and the enforcement authorities recently visited also, and their next visit was also planned as soon as possible. The supermarket store should also expect another visit from the enforcement authority. You also inform the store manager that the injured worker is likely to claim for compensation. As a result, a court case is likely and the supermarket will need a lawyer. This is the latest claim of company. Many such claims over the years by workers at the supermarket. Okay, guys, so I really need voluntarily to understand your understanding before we discuss question and answers. Let me, anyone can share what clearly you have understood, what happened, how it should be avoided, what was the safety system was in line with the safety regulations as well implemented, I mean followed, or how many different kind of opportunities for further improvement you believe are there, or any negative indicators for the safety culture, or anything relevant to the responsibilities you believe is not fit to the purpose, or what is your role as a safety advisor in line with the NEBOSH theories or international like ILO, Convention C155 or Recommendation 164. Either you are fulfilling your responsibilities or even as an employee actually. So what is your understanding before we discuss question and answers? Is there any confusion or you believe you are unable to understand the scenario? So that I can put more energy, because ultimately the number one important point is to understand the scenario, what the scenario is all about, and then put some filter, several issues related to several positive points of health and safety system, several negative points related to health and safety, and you start digging out and what was the scenario, how the investigation was going on. That means the investigation procedure or accident investigation procedure were being followed, yes or no. So several things. So it's a crux of positive and negative things in the scenario. And to be very honest, every company has some gap for sure. Even the big brands, still they believe the biggest room in the world is the room for further improvement. And they try their level best to find out further areas to improve actually. So please let me know, have you understood the scenario before we discuss the task or questions or the answers? Any one of you facing problem in understanding? Because let me mention again, if you will be unable to, God forbid, understanding the scenario, even the simplest questions would be really hard to answer because every answer need to be in line with the scenario actually. Against any question, our answers have to be in line with the scenario. Like we will be picking up some of the things, some of the scenario from the within our answer from the scenario itself, and then writing in our own words, in paragraphs, giving some headings and making sure things are quite in our favor, inshallah. And we are attracting through technical points to the NEBOSH examiner as well. So let me confirm, have you all understood the scenario, or should I repeat again actually? It looks like a little bit lengthy for sure, because after all, it's an exam, so they have to give the whole structure of the company in positive and negative directions and creating a scenario and putting one accident or incident. And in every scenario, like if you see all the exams of NEBOSH, OB, open book exam, every scenario have ultimately one incident or accident, well shared, along with positive, negative, safety indicators or some good points about safety system, or even with bad points of safety system, but they shared one of the incident within the scenario. And then they ask, if you are the advisor, if you are the safety leader, how you will resolve it. So until now, I'm just asking, have you understood the scenario? Is it easy to understand, or if there is any confusion, just let me know so we can recap some of the techniques, inshallah. Yes, please. Yes, guys, I'm waiting for your endorsement or acknowledgement. Have you understood the scenario? Shall we go for question and answers? Okay, Mr. Khalid. Any other opinion, please? Okay, Mr. Mister. So let's go ahead with question and answers. Now, the first task is workers' responsibilities in the workplace. The heading is workers' responsibilities in the workplace. And what different regulations are saying? Like number one, question is the injured worker and their fellow workers may have contravened some of their responsibilities as workers within the International Labour Organization Convention like C155. Recommendations or Occupational Health and Safety Convention 1981 and 155 Article 19 and associated recommendation are 164 Occupational Health and Safety Recommendation 1981 recommendation 16. Comment on the extent to which Article 19 of C 155 and recommendation 16 of or 164 may have contravened, and 10 marks are there. So just the legal reference is or kind of standard reference asking from the ILO conventions and recommendations. Now, the key point is you should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from the scenario. That is the task number one. That means all about relevant responsibilities in line with ILO conventions and recommendations. Now, what is the second question? Influencing health and safety culture. And the question he asked to improve health and safety performance in the supermarket, you know that you need to positively influence health and safety culture. What appears to be negative indicators health and safety culture at the supermarket? So 20 marks would be there. Again, note same like for task one, you should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from the scenario. Now the task 3 is health and safety management roles and responsibilities. Here was workers' responsibilities. The task 1 and task 3 is health and safety management roles and responsibilities. And the question, our focus must be question. Comment on the effectiveness of roles and responsibilities in relation to the health and safety management in the supermarket, like the behavior of store manager, the way they're taking serious to the safety, especially the shift managers, how they are responding to several queries, or what negative or positive things they were playing, as a management within that supermarket. And again, it's a 10 marks. So you should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from the scenario. Now, number 4 is accident investigation and recommendations. Now, here we have two subparts of questions, like why should the scene of the accident have been secured? Why should the scene of the accident have been secured? Why we need to secure the scene of the accident? And based on the scenario only, what training would you recommend that supermarket arranges for the different types of workers to minimize probability of repeat accident? Understand the question. What training would you recommend? So several training topics, line by line, topic by topic, we can share. Like accident investigation training must be there, induction programs, has a recognition training should be done, risk assessment training. I mean, it's up to you what topics you're going to generalize in line with according to the question, in line with the scenario. Now, task 5 is determining individuals' human factor that negatively influence human behavior or influence behavior. That means what individual human factors might have negatively influenced the behavior of the injured worker. So whatever question you are getting from element 1 to 4, surely you can get some insights, what are human factors, and several behavior, different types. So if you need some vocabulary words, still you have sources, or even you can research through some, like if you're giving any human factor reference from other sources, from OSHA, from ILO, from WHO, so then make sure you give that reference. You should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from the scenario. Now the task 6 is how the faulty compactor exposed workers to greater risk, showing how the faulty compactor exposed workers to greater risk. This is the heading of the task. Question is, with the compactor safety protection device not working, the workers were exposed to the significantly greater risk. And good visual way of demonstrating and understanding this is draw a risk matrix like the one shown below. Like we're gonna share the severity and likelihood, and ultimately we'll find the red zone area if we do the risk assessment, especially with the faulty sensors. It will come, the probability and likelihood will go up for sure. Now the question is, assuming that you are teaching someone who has never seen this kind of risk matrix before, show how the matrix can be used to confirm that the risk level was acceptable when the compactor risk assessment was initially carried out. And 5.2 is show how the matrix can be used to confirm that the risk level changed significantly with the safety protection device not working. So just highlighting and creating awareness against risk assessment, or through the chart guiding someone who is not familiar at all why you're talking about some of the issues are in red zone and it's need to be immediate stoppage of the process or the compactor itself, and then make sure you don't restart until it is fully fixed actually. Now show calculation and support the calculation using information where applicable. So some formula like R is equal to likelihood multiply consequences. In line with that question, you need to highlight, even though in the scenario plenty of things are highlighted. Now, what additional administrative control measures could the supermarket put in place to prevent a repeat of the accident with the compactor? So 10 marks, and then 5, or that means 10 more marks for A and 10 marks for B. So ultimately 20 marks are there for task 6. Now task 7 is all about financial arguments for the store manager to improve health and safety. Financial arguments. for the store manager to improve health and safety, because the store manager was only having single intention to increase sales, to achieve sale targets and be in the top 5 rather than staying in the top 10, so his focus was only the sales. So how are you gonna convince, what kind of financial arguments you're gonna give to store manager that health and safety needs to be improved? So 10 marks are there. So total 7 tasks, and under 7 tasks, several questions, like total 7 questions, but under one task, maybe you have 2 different questions or 3 different questions. But our answers should be in line with the scenario. Let's take task number 1, like workers' responsibility in the workplace. We're talking about the article numbers, from the convention and from the recommendations of ILO, and 10 marks are there. And we just need to prove that workers were contravened their responsibilities according to the ILO conventions and recommendations. So now how are we going to answer? What techniques we will apply within our answer? And I hope you remember some of the points of top 5 techniques. As per the scenario, in every, you have to start your answer with that particular, just to link your answer with the scenario. As per scenario, the following responsibilities of injured worker and his fellow workers were contravened that lead to accident. As per scenario, the following responsibilities of injured worker and his fellow workers were contravened that lead to accident. Now you started giving reference and getting several things from the articles, and the references are already there. You don't need to put separate references, because you are giving the right set of reference and they're asking in the answer itself. Now, the convention C155 article 19b, the injured worker contravened this obligation because he had not cooperated with the employer, because he ignored instructions of employer and asked fellow workers to operate the control of the machine. So the experienced worker, he ignored his obligation, his legal responsibility not to let any unauthorized, untrained, uncertified kind of a helper person, and giving him authority to operate the compactor or the machine, and that contravened the convention C155 article 19b. Now the convention C155 article 19f, what is saying? The injured worker and his fellow worker contravened their responsibility because they did not report. The moment they went there and they found something is jammed, so at least their responsibility is to report the danger to concerned person immediately as per ILO recommendation R164/1981 number 164. So not only article 19F, even recommendation 164/1981 number 164 also talk about the same thing. So what we are doing, in line with the scenario, according to the question, we are giving the answer. And what is the best technique? The heading and the paragraphs. Rather than writing a lengthy paragraph and the examiner is confused how to understand the technical points or the answer itself. So to make it eye-catching, it's much better to put heading and writing small paragraphs, and even give underline, to the important points. If within the paragraph, if you truly want to highlight that the examiner should notice, actually, still we can underline like this, or even like this: they did not report the danger. We can, even the heading can also be underlined. So what we are doing, no need to read everything. The examiner can notice that your understanding is solid. You are the best gentleman as a safety leader, because you picked up the information and mentioned in the right way. Now, recommendation R164 1981 16A. This was the responsibility of injured worker to take reasonable care of his own. So your safety, your responsibility, and this is kind of legal obligation as well. So, and his co-worker's safety, but he asked him to operate the control, which he was not authorized to do so. By doing that, he put himself and his co-worker in danger. So you are giving the reference and you are justifying with your statement, writing in your own words or by referring some other material. Now, recommendation R164 16B, like 16A, 16B, 16C, 16D, 16E. Recommendation R64. So A, B, C, D, E. What are the violations? A is, this was the responsibility of injured worker to take reasonable care of his own and his co-worker. And B is saying, as per scenario, the temporary worker contravened his responsibility by following the instruction of injured worker to operate the control on compactor as per this recommendation. He should comply with the instruction given to him. As per given instruction, he was not supposed to operate the compactor. Again, another violation. Now, 16C, as per this recommendation, it was a responsibility of them to use safety devices. By scenario, we noticed that safety device of the machine was not working. So now we are getting some words from we are giving solid reference from the scenario even, wherever required, was not working. So still they use the machine without safety device. Now 16D of recommendation 64 is saying the injured worker and his fellow co-worker contravened their responsibility by not informing their immediate supervisor about danger situation, which was malfunction of safety protection device of machine. So they didn't inform immediately. And 16E is talking about the co-worker of injured worker contravened his responsibility of accident reporting because he had not properly reported the accident, even though they were not trained how to report. Their induction was not done good. Even the employees, because the top management was not very much familiar, or kind of commitment was not there, how they have to lead health and safety system within the supermarket. And that is why what he did, he directly called the emergency services instead of reporting to the internal person, because they were not trained enough. So what he did, he directly called the emergency services instead of reporting to the internal person. So at least this is the minimum answer of question number or task number 1. And to be very honest, this is just the best example as per our knowledge, but your effort through your research, through your learning passion to understand more deeper, you have to try even to make this answer 1000% much better than this answer. That should be your key aim or kind of target. Now it is up to you how deeper you will penetrate and to learn and clear your concept and give some solid informations against any question or task given or asked by NEBOSH. An examiner, surely he will understand quite easily. Maybe by reading the first answer, he will surely make a picture and accordingly giving the marks, because I hope you remember the first impression is the last impression. So make sure in the first question, the moment you start writing answer, your every word should be technically solid, and examiner must have some attraction and some positivity in the mind that you are the best person, mashallah, and going to be the best safety leader in future. We are not writing lengthy stories. We are giving a reference as per the question, and we are writing few lines again in line with the scenario, or mentioning some of the things getting from the recommendations or conventions actually. Now, the second task is influencing health and safety culture, but our focus should be the question. Now, the question is, it's a 20 marks question. Let me highlight because 20 marks. To improve health and safety performance in the supermarket, you know that you need to positively influence health and safety culture. What appear to be the negative indicators of health and safety culture at the supermarket? Now, before you give any answer, you can go back to your study material, your books, your further research and see what are the negative indicators of a health and safety culture at a supermarket. Before even you decide to give the answer, have some maximum, that is why you got like 24 hours. So do some research, find some information from NEBOSH website, from HSC UK website, from from OSHA regulations, from ILO even, or any other regulatory body, including your local legal bodies, of Saudi Arabia. And if they are talking something about health and safety culture, and you truly want to penetrate or put into your answer, then make sure you give the reference that in line with those legal standards, following are the indicators we observe in line with the scenario are negative, or some are positive. It all depends as per the question. Because in the question, he's asking what appear to be negative indicators of a health and safety culture at the supermarket. And I hope you would agree there are several negative indicators which clearly highlight the safety culture of supermarket. Now, you should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from the scenario. So let's start the answer. We are starting with the health and safety culture is what we are bringing some definition, how the health and safety culture looks like. This kind of a shared attitude, values and beliefs, behaviors relating to the health and safety. There will either be positive or negative. Following are the negative indicators of health and safety culture. So we are giving us solid evidence that in line with our study, in line with the NEBOSH theories, that is the definition of safety culture, like shared attitude, values, belief, behaviors relating to health and safety. And then we start talking about positive or negative. And because in the question, he is talking about the negative indicators, especially in the supermarket. So following are the negative indicators of health and safety culture at the supermarket in given scenario, like store manager behavior. We place the heading first of all. The store manager behavior was negative towards health and safety. His purpose was to achieve sales target without considering health and safety of the workers in the supermarket. Enough. No need to write so many lengthy stories. Just take one heading, one indicator, and note down in line with the scenario. Reoccurrence of accident. As the poor health and safety culture followed, it can cause the accident reoccurrence as the safety protection devices stopped working, but morning shift manager didn't take proper action, and it leads toward accident. It was observed in the past that workers are compensated after accident. So reoccurrence of accident. So repetition of accident. One-time accident is a source of learning. It's a source of improvement. But repetition of same incident, it's also a negative indicator of the safety culture of any company, not only the supermarket, of any company. So what you are doing, you are creating a heading and you are justifying, getting some evidence from the scenario and writing, in better shape. Now, the third indicator, no proper emergency response procedure. No proper emergency response procedure. The temporary worker was not aware of emergency response procedure. At the time of accident, he was not aware of emergency procedure and he called emergency services directly instead of calling night shift manager. So, whatever heading you are mentioning, Just you consider in line with the scenario, this is another negative factor, negative indicator of the safety culture, but make sure you give some justifying statement to prove that your point is technically valid. Now, poor safety induction of new workers. The temporary workers had a brief safety induction video only for 2 minutes, but they are not briefed properly about their job description, and they are not instructed properly to carry out the task. Insufficient first aid facilities, we can make another heading. Okay, so insufficient first aid facilities because there was no first aider. There is lack of first aiders in the supermarket. At the time of accident, no first aider was working in that shift. Now, job location of temporary workers. Job location of temporary workers. Why you are giving very sensitive job locations? Like temporary workers had not properly trained and they were assigned in an area which was busy and highly risky actually. That means that was another terrible mistake. The job location of temporary workers. Improper training records of workers. There is no proper training record of workers had maintained and supermarket. Lack of monitoring. As the store manager and shift managers are aware, the compactor safety device is not working. And until later on, they didn't even visit the compactor area at all, and no safety person was available at night shift when accident happened. So lack of monitoring. And I hope you remember the number 4 element is measuring and monitoring and measurement, right? Number 1 element was why health and safety. Number 2 element was how health and safety system we have to manage, right? And number 3 element was all about assessing risk or managing risk. And then number 4 element was all about monitoring and measurement. So whatever we are talking about, it is just, in line with element 1 to 4. Like training is also somewhere we discuss in elements, and lack of monitoring. Now, improper response to worker complaints. Whenever workers complain about any issue, shift manager threatens, them in the form of warning, loss of bonus, termination, and replacement with other workers. Improper response to worker complaint. This is another indicator. What we are talking about? And what he asked in the question, the negative indicator of safety culture. No, ignoring enforcement authorities' guidelines. In the scenario, it was observed that the compactor area was noticed by enforcement agencies before, and at the time of accident, risk was same as before. Incomplete SOP or safe operating procedure, because that was not completed, not signed, not implemented. It was observed in the scenario that workers are using compactor machine without its safety guard and not following safety operating procedures, which was not even developed or signed by the top management, or ignoring safety signage. This is another indicator. In the scenario, it was observed that safety signage are ignored by the injured person and his fellow worker. There was a warning sign specified about the use of compactor that authorized workers only. It was written there, and they ignored it, which lead towards accident actually. Now, damaged machines usage, several indicators or the negative indicators of safety culture. Damaged machine usage. In the scenario, it was mentioned that the compactor was jammed before in the past, which means that without maintaining, they are using the damaged defective machine from a long time. Another indicator, ignoring safety device. It is observed that the compactor safety device was not working, but shift manager ignored the safety and did not take measures or to disconnect or to the compactor actually. Even accident investigation uphold in the scenario, it was observed that accident happened in this night shift and investigation delayed until next morning. Improper hazard communication method, it is observed in the scenario that compactor safety device is damaged, but morning shift manager only verbally informed the night shift manager about the fault. Now, the store manager's attitude, it was observed in the scenario that the store manager main focus was to achieve sales target and he don't care about health and safety of workers. Improper guidance about job. The temporary workers are not trained and guided properly about their job description and they are assigned an area where they have workload. Now, no lockout tagout procedure as compactor device was stopped working. The morning shift manager didn't take action and apply the lockout tagout procedure to stop the machine activity. Machine user especially, he just verbally informed the workers not to use the compactor. Tagging of faulty equipment, it was observed that the equipment was faulty, but even after that, they did not apply don't use tag. So you are getting some information from the scenario and giving some solid debating points, or in other words, the solid reference in your own words, and writing a short story just to prove your statement why you are telling these are the negative indicators in line with the scenario. And why it is a little bit lengthy, because a lot of negative points were there, and also we have 20 marks. So if we truly want to gain 20 out of 20, surely we have to write at least 20 different points, because each point, I hope you remember, each technical point is equal to 1 mark. So 20 marks means at least 20 points should be there, so we could have a chance to get some better marks, Still, we can write several others. Like we can make one, heading, maybe poor self-realization. Poor self-realization, and we justify in line with the scenario. The top management clearly mentioned to the safety advisor, to you, that safety is your responsibility. Accident investigation, performing it on time, it is your responsibility. So because of that blame shame kind of thing, it clearly highlights the negative indicator of the safety culture. So what I mean is, we can add few more points, but make sure your answer is not so lengthy and not so small. So according to the question, according to the marks, actually, you need to decide how much you have to write there. Okay. Now task 3 is health and safety management roles and responsibilities. And what is the question which is important for us to understand? Comment on the effectiveness. So straightforward question is about the effectiveness of roles and responsibilities. In relation to health and safety management in the supermarket, so 10 marks are there. You should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from the scenario. So health and safety management roles and responsibilities, even the question itself, that means within this question, by giving the answer, our target is the management, the top management, the store manager, the shift manager, the safety advisor, Either they were fulfilling their responsibilities positively or not at all, actually. Or what was the lacking point? So according to the given scenario, effectiveness of roles and responsibilities of health and safety management observation in the market is as follows. First of all, we can create a point, lack of leadership, and let me add lack of safety leadership. In the supermarket, there was lack of senior management leadership presence for health and safety. or I can add the top leadership. Lack of top leadership. In the supermarket, there was lack of senior management leadership presence for health and safety, like no general manager was there, no managing director was there for that supermarket, no specific health and safety manager was appointed, no safety officer, supervisor. So but anyhow, for the top leadership, at least the the safety manager, the general manager, or somewhat the managing director even. But because they were having 400 other stores, so these scenarios belong to one of their supermarket. Now, lack of communication. There was not effective communication system was available. And again, we can start, in line with the scenario, there was not effective communication system available within that company, within that supermarket. And especially, mostly the communication was being done verbally, not in writing. So they were just informing, not consulting actually. So that was a clear. So what I mean is just few more justifying words. If we believe still there is a chance to improve our statement, no harm to add. That is why we get 24 hours. So we just need to make sure we have clear understanding and the right set of words to respond all our questions. Improper supervision of activities. For critical activities, no proper supervision was provided. Again, we can add here in line with the scenario or as per given scenario. For as per given scenario for the critical activities, no proper supervision was provided. Improper accident investigation. Management was not monitoring the accident investigation procedure. Even they tried to threaten HSC advisor to complete the investigation as quick as possible. They tried to enforce the HSC advisor to complete the investigation as quick as possible. Now, lack of resources is another. There was lack of resources to correct the unsafe condition of damaged machine, and it was jammed before as well. So lack of resources and commitment towards safety. Even we can add machine maintenance. I hope you are getting the point. So we just try, to put something productive. So the examiner should get a reason to give us the mark, like lack of resources and commitment towards machine maintenance. There was a lack of resources to correct the unsafe condition of damaged machine. Even it was jammed before as well. So the required resources for machine maintenance must be allocated. Okay, we can't use the must, we can need to be allocated, because we are not there to advise them, but of course we can highlight some opportunities for improvement. Now, safety policy. Temporary workers were not briefed properly about supermarket safety policy. Again, in line with the scenario, risk assessment review. To review risk assessment and performance, no system was available. To review risk assessment and performance, no system was available. Now, hazard recognition and incident reporting. Hazard recognition and incident reporting was not effective. Monitoring of safety performance, there was not appropriate monitoring of staff safety performance. Establishment of safety performance, it is the responsibility of health and safety management to establish safety performance goals, but it is observed in the scenario that store manager was goal was to achieve sales target, not safety. So that was I will share this scenario with all of you just for your better refresh understanding whenever you get some time, so you can open and double check and keep understanding how you have to answer against each task. Understanding of techniques, actually the words, of course, on December 1st nobody knows what kind of scenario would be there, but definitely it would be a little bit similar. Like one accident, they will highlight some gaps about responsibility, some gaps about accident investigation, some gaps relevant to measuring and performance, some gaps in risk assessment. So they'll be playing the scenario within element number 1 to element number 4, and that is all about IG1 OB exam scenario and the questions. Now the number 4 task is accident investigation and recommendation. That will start inshallah after the lunch and prayer break. So meantime, enjoy your lunch and come back with some more energy, even though it's a weekend, but the day is very important, the crux of our training inshallah. So warmly welcome to all of you after lunch and prayer break. So we were at task number 4. In line with the scenario, we were discussing how we're going to give our answers. What is the value of small paragraphs along with the heading, and how technically we need to collect some information from the scenario and some information through our own words or through some research as well. So now we have task number 4. This is all about accident investigation and recommendations. But most importantly, the question is, why should the scene of the accident have been secured? And B is, based on the scenario only, what training would you recommend the supermarket arranges for the different types of workers to minimize the probability of repeat the accidents actually? So 15 questions or 15 marks are there. So let's go with 4A. How are we gonna secure the accident scene? The scene of the accident shall be secured to restrict the entry of authorized persons only. Accident scene should also be secured to save other people from different hazards which can present in an accident area. And also accident scene should be secured to prevent any alteration to the evidence of an individual accident. Scene shall be secured together circumstantial evidences. Accident scene should be secured to collect factual evidence as well. And secure accident scenes will provide proper and real sketch of accident scene, which will be helpful to find out the cause of accident. So that is the reason why we truly need to secure the scene of the accident. Now, the 4B is all about, according to the given scenario, I would recommend following trainings for supermarket workers and managers to minimize the chances of repeated accident. The first important training we can recommend is the LOTO training, the lockout tagger. Because why I'm recommending this training? Because it is for all the workers at supermarket, so that during their job they are able to make sure that machine will not be started even accidentally or unexpectedly, and there is no sudden release of energy. And also no harm to recommend another training, job specific training, because in the scenario you noted job specific training was not very much effective. So workers shall be provided with job specific training, so they will be aware about their job, that how to perform it safely and how to control associated present hazard present in the job. Also, I can add few more words here. Also, for effective training, we must ensure that the SOP, standard operating procedure, is well developed and approved for step-by-step training of our employees, especially the machine operators. So we are just trying to justify why we are recommending job specific training, and since the SOP was not ready, and that is the another reason, because once the SOP is ready, then you have a reason to have some internal training plans and internal training programs, or even sessions you're going to implement. The moment job specific training you are trying to deliver as per the internal SOPs. Incident accident investigation training, this is another training we can recommend, because supermarket managers should be provided with this training, so they will understand the importance of proper accident investigation. They can stop reoccurrence of accident with the help of investigation report. And still we can add few more words, like most importantly, they must be familiar that they should not stop to the or not to interfere in line with the responsibilities of health and safety advisor, because his clear-cut job is to investigate and he required a sufficient time. So what I mean is, we can write several long stories, but let's have small paragraphs with each heading of the topic. And the other training is the risk assessment training, because all managers and experienced workers should be provided with this training so that they will get knowledge about hazards, risk, and its control measures. And safety induction training should also be there. Like we can create a separate heading for safety induction. New worker in the company should be provided with proper safety orientation and with safe system of work, not like 2 minutes video only. It should be like a detailed comprehensive training. Let me tell you, in 1999, I still remember during my first job, it's one of the oil and gas company, the rental and machine shop services were there, the ITS company name was, it's a UK based, Aberdeen based, now purchased by one of the other brand. I don't remember exactly the name, but at that time, I spent first 3 months, which were like kind of a probationary period, and I spent those 3 months only for my training. My training in incoming goods inspection area, my training in the machine shop area, then in quality department, safety department, and later on they deployed me as a QHSC coordinator. What I mean is, prior to start my job, they provided me detailed training, and that was part of their kind of SOP, like it is part of their induction program even at some level, like 3 months only for trainings, and later on a lot of benefits because I understood what to do, when to do, how to do, and why they went through this area to get maximum effectiveness through my job responsibilities and having some value addition into the business actually. And that is the ultimate goal of any sort of trainings aim. Now, safety induction training, make sure, first of all, the training, especially relevant to safe system of work, like we studied in our training material, even near miss and incident reporting procedures should be covered. How to report an emergency, what to do in case of an emergency, all those factors must be part of our induction program. And manual handling training, we can create another topic separately even, we can give that topic a separate indication, like all the workers of supermarket should be provided with manual handling training. Hazard recognition and reporting, I will recommend this training for all the managers and workers of supermarket, as I observed in the given scenario that almost all the workers were failed to recognize the hazard of a damaged machine, and even when they identify, they are not able to report it. Other workers and managers that result in accident. Even I can recommend another training, we call it BBS, behavior based training, behavior based safety training. So behavior based safety training is recommended for all the supermarket managers. It will improve their behavior towards health and safety, and they will start taking it seriously as an important matter. Even no harm to recommend NEBOSH IGC training as well. I recommend this training for supermarket, especially the managers, so they will get proper awareness about health and safety management system, workplace hazards, controls, and of course the risk assessment. And another training which we can recommend separately, like machine guarding training, I recommend this training for permanent and temporary workers, as it is observed in the scenario that they opened the safety guard while it was connected to electric power source, that led to an accident. Now the question is, as per your understanding, do you think is there any other training we can recommend? Even though several words we have noted topic wise, but still you believe, is there any other topic you would love to recommend actually? Any other topic please, in line with the scenario? Because we have studied, understood the scenario, several safety system gaps are there. So what do you think, what other trainings we can recommend to supermarket management and workers, other than the topics I enlisted here? Any other topic you believe we can add? Yes, please. Any other training, please? Or it is enough? And that is the real challenge. Is it enough the answer, or I should add few more things? So according to the mark, if it is 10 mark, it's much more, because two parts are there. One is relevant to the securing the scene, and second part is all about recommending the trainings actually. The total 15 marks are there, and for 15 marks, do you think this much is enough, or we can add any further topics, anything coming in your mind? Because you are providing solution against each task or any issues highlighted in the scenario through questions. Any other topic, please? Or it is enough? Yes, one training I can add here, the first aid training, first aid and CPR training. CPR training, because As per given scenario, you remember there was no first aider. So as per the given scenario, one more first aider must be trained and deployed, especially at the night shift. Okay. Mr. Mesper, to be very honest, I really want to clap for you because this is one of the most important topics, the line of fire. Don't cross the line of fire. And yes, Mr. Ali Musa, mashallah, you mentioned incident reporting procedure. And I believe this one is highlighted somewhere, like safety induction. Yeah. Incident and investigation report. Yes. Incident reporting separately, that procedure training must be given. So beautiful, mashallah. So as per your understanding, even you can improve your answer. I'm giving some good examples as per my knowledge, but still you can create more better shape of your answers, especially in line with the scenario. Because of course you are not going to get the same scenario. There would be a different scenario, but that is how the techniques should work and apply. And I'm happy, mashallah, the way you highlighted two topics like line of fire and incident reporting procedure. Brilliant, mashallah. But still, bear in mind, if you will make your answers so lengthy, then maybe it will go out of the way. But whatever topic you are suggesting, make sure it is the actual need as per the scenario you studied. Now, task 5 is determining individual human factors that negatively influence the behavior. One question was there relevant to the negative indicators, relevant to the safety culture. Now, this is relevant to the behavior, the negative factors or the human factors that negatively influence behavior. Now, what individual human factors might have negatively influenced the behavior of injured worker? 10 marks are there. You should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from the scenario. So based on the given scenario, following are the individual human factors that may be negatively influence the behavior of injured worker. Number 1 is shift managers' competency. Like shift managers were not competent enough as when they found out regarding malfunction of safety device, they did not take any action that might have a negative influence. That means their risk perception was very poor actually. Even the safety device is not working, they didn't take it serious. That means their risk perception or risk profiling capability was not enough actually. Now, store manager, shift managers, risk perception, like next topic we can create even after telling verbally about fault of safety device or machine, they never revisited the area, as per the given scenario also. It showed their weak risk perception that might have negative influence on injured worker behavior. Now, the risk perception of shift manager, he was even though told about the compactor safety protection device was faulty, but he has not asked to isolate the machine. That was again poor risk perception of shift manager, that he must isolate the machine and put lockout tag and not to let anyone to start this machine, which shows his weak risk perception. This might have negative influence. Now, temporary worker skill, as temporary workers don't have enough experience and knowledge, they don't require skill to do the job that might negatively influence the behavior of injured workers. Shift managers behavior, we can also add here separately in another topic. So when someone complained about any problem, what was the behavior? He was giving some threats about their job, and this might have negative influence. Temporary workers' personality, like risk aversion of the temporary worker was not up to the mark, that might have negative influence on injured worker. Any other negative behavior you observed in the scenario, which we can create in a separate heading? Please recall the scenario and let me know your point of view, Marshall. Any other point related to the behavior we can highlight in question number 5? What individual human factors might have negatively influenced the behavior of the injured worker? Any other point can we add, or you believe is more than enough? Because the problem is they have clearly mentioned, our answer must be in line with the scenario. Any other point you believe we can add, or it is more than enough? According to me, it is more than enough, but still the biggest room in the world is the room for further improvement. That is why I opened this discussion. Is there any other point we can add which can justify or have more meaningful answer against question number 5, human factors? Otherwise, we can move on. Task is showing how the faulty compactor exposed workers to greater risk. Showing how the faulty, this is task is, but what is the question? With the compactor's safety protection device not working, the worker were exposed to the significantly greater risk. A good visual way of demonstrating and understanding this is to draw a risk matrix like the one shown below. Now we have here a 5, 5, 10. So 20 marks question overall, and A, B, 2 options are there. And A have basically 2 parts, like show how the matrix can be used to confirm that the risk level was acceptable when the compactor risk assessment was initially carried out, or show how the matrix can be used to confirm that the risk level changed significantly with the safety protection device not working. Show calculation and support the calculation. So we will write in the answer. What additional administrative control measures could the supermarket put in place to prevent a repeat of the accident with the compactor? You should support your answer where applicable using relevant information from the scenario. So let's start with 6A, and A means have 2 further subparts. So the risk matrix shown in question is a 3 by 3 risk matrix. See, 3 by 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So they took severity and likelihood in 3 different ratings. Now, where axis indicates the likelihood of the accident occurred, it is increasing from the left to right. In case likelihood is very unlikely, it will be shown by number 1. And if it is very likely, it will shown by number 3. Now, where y-axis indicates severity, we all understand increasing from bottom to top. Minor injury will be shown as number 1. And if it is like major injury, then of course we can go with number 3. So accordingly, we'll get some color indicates like green is acceptable risk, yellow tolerable, and red is unacceptable risk. So risk can be defined as a risk is equal to likelihood multiplied severity. Now, when the initial risk assessment and compactor was carried out, it was considered that competent worker will be assigned for the job. Safe operating procedures shall be followed. Safety signage shall be placed. All the safety devices sensors. So these were the current controls or kind of controls they implemented the moment they conducted the risk assessment. And also the sensor devices were working properly. So the likelihood of the accident was unlikely, but in case of accident happen, the severity rating will be major because we noticed the accident resulted in amputation of lower arm by adding the numbers and equation. So risk is equal to very unlikely multiply major injuries. So risk is equal to 1 multiply 3. But condition is all safety devices and sensors should be working actually. Then probability will go down. That is why we selected number 1. But severity is still there. 3. So 1 multiplied 3 is equal to 3. So this equation indicates that the risk was acceptable at the time of initial risk assessment of compactor when it was carried out. Now, question 6A2, the risk matrix shown in question is a 3 by 3 risk matrix where x-axis indicates the likelihood of the accident. Same way, because it is a major impact. So both way we selected, because likelihood gone up, the sensor is not working. So likelihood is 2 and severity is 3. So 2 multiply 3 is equal to 6. So risk is equal to likely multiply major increase. So risk is equal to 2 multiply 3 means 6. This equation indicates the risk change significantly, even at a unacceptable level in case safety protection device stops working. So why it was previously at initial assessment, why it was acceptable? Because probability or the likelihood was 1 actually. With condition that the safety sensors and devices were working actively. And on the other side, once they are not working, it is going to be likelihood going to be increased, and severity is already there. Number 3. Even in my case, if safety devices are not there, we can go with the number 3 as well, But why I went with the 2? Because the fatality is of some kind of still not possible because they are just approaching few of the areas of the machine. Now, question 6 says, as per given scenario, the supermarket shall further administrative control measures to prevent a repeat of such accidents in future. Those control measures could be what? Now they are going to implement some of the administrative controls, and whatever training plans, auditing, safety meetings, toolbox meetings, safety rules, warning signs, anything in documentation, including our permit to work system, our work permit forms, whatever we implement, basically all comes under administrative controls. Whatever rules we are implementing, starting from the security gate until to the end process, this all comes under administrative controls. So implementation of safe operating procedure. Now we can give reference from the scenario. As observed in the scenario that safe operating procedures are incomplete, the supermarket have to make sure that these safe operating procedures shall be completed and effective, so it will help that accident will not be repeated. Now, provision of job related instruction and training. As observed in the given scenario, for temporary workers have no proper job specific training. That is why in the previous question we recommended job specific training as well. The supermarket have to provide the job specific training on immediate basis with a written job description. Implementation of PTW. Based on the scenario, no permit to work system was used. It's supermarket responsibility to introduce and implement work permit system for critical job activity to avoid same accidents. Use of pictograms as observed in the given scenario. In the compactor area, warning signage was without pictogram. The safety signage with pictograms shall be used by the supermarket, so everyone will easily understand its purpose, and it will help to identify the message to avoid future accidents. Now, provision of active monitoring for critical jobs. As per given scenario, no one was doing monitoring of critical activities which led towards accident. The supermarket have to ensure that responsible person can monitor. So someone must be responsible to monitor actually the critical activities to prevent future accidents. Assign competent person for critical job. As observed in the scenario, while operating compactor, no competent person was present to monitor the activity, which result in injury of worker. The supermarket have to assign a competent person for such critical jobs to prevent accident in future, even not to allow, especially to the helpers or any unauthorized, untrained, uncertified person to operate the machine actually. So that was all about question 6. Now the last one is relevant to financial arguments. We have to convince the store manager. It's not like always the targets, the sale targets. Safety, I mean, you can't earn money I mean, you don't have right to earn money by killing people, by damaging the environment actually, or damaging the assets of your company, or your overall credibility or your business itself. So all four pillars are important to give importance. So how are we going to convince? What arguments we'll give to the store manager? But those arguments should be in shape of money, like kind of financial arguments. So we can convince him 10 marks are there. Understand the technique, again, small paragraphs with heading, and creating a heading requires some creativity, some innovation. I'm sure the moment I'll share this one, automatically you will have some understanding how we can create some headings in line with the scenario. As per given scenario, the following financial arguments could be used to convince the store manager that health and safety need to be improved. That is the question. Now, medical treatment expenses. As mentioned in the scenario, the hand of the worker was crushed, which required what? The hospital treatment and its cost, of course, As injury happened during job, so the supermarket have to pay medical treatment expenses. Now, loss of production time. As noticed in the given scenario, few employees were engaged in accident investigation. It means during that time, they cannot perform their duty. That will have impact on their productivity. We are convincing to the store manager why safety is important, why the safety have to be improved within their company, within their supermarket. So payment of sick leave to injured person, the direct and indirect cost. I hope you will recall some concepts. Payment of sick leave to injured person, as mentioned in the scenario, there was amputation injury. That means worker will not able to continue his job, but supermarket have to pay him during his absence due to medical treatment. So like a lawyer, we are giving some arguments, some debating points, and in line with the scenario. If something is good, we are claiming it's good, it is done by the supermarket management. But if something is not good, we are highlighting this is an area of improvement required. Suspension of activity as enforcement agencies subjected the compacted area during their earlier visit. If there is no improvement, then formal enforcement agency could temporarily suspend the activity, which result in financial loss. Several companies, they are just, even take an example of our Saudi Arabia, like the Baladia. How many restaurants, shops, and different kind of, businesses they close just because hygienic conditions are not there, or maybe several other issues. And they immediately locked it up and make sure they follow the regulations. And it's a financial loss, by the way. Now, repairs, we call it opportunity loss as well. Because if a business is closed for 10 days, for 20 days, or for 1 month, of course, it's a loss. Repairs, replacement of damaged equipment as per scenario, accidents were reoccurring. Future reoccurring occurrence could result in damage of equipment, and the supermarket have to pay for repair or have to purchase a new equipment to continue the task. That is why store manager have to improve health and safety. We are trying to convince that store manager. Now, damage to business reputation. As we noticed in the scenario, the accidents were happening again. That may have bad impact on the supermarket reputation. That will affect business relations of the supermarket. On the other side, they want to be in top 5 now instead of top 10. In top 10, they are already there. But coming into top 5, how come you can come, without improving health and safety system actually? So reduction in staff morale, we can create another heading here. I will share this inshallah with all of you once training will be finished, inshallah. So I will convert in PDF, or maybe I'll share a Word format so you can just have some practice, any addition, deletion as per your understanding. And you can utilize me as a reviewer as well. If you want to review, like you have done some practice and you just want to review, so share with me. I'll be more than happy to give you some feedback, inshallah. If the store manager will not improve the health and safety condition, that will result in reduction of staff morale, which have impact on their efficiency and productivity. Now, training expenses. In case of severe injuries as occurred in the scenario, the injured person will not be able to continue his job, and the supermarket have to hire and train a new employee. And of course, training requires financial aid. Recruitment expenses, the supermarket have to recruit replacement employees, so they have to bear recruitment agency expenses to fulfill the injured person gap. Even worker compensation claim, one of the critical factors. As mentioned in the scenario, the supermarket had paid compensation to the workers that could be reduced by improving health and safety condition to the supermarket. So plenty of things we truly need to make sure, we can put an argument and convince the store manager why health and safety is important. So I hope you have got some ideas how exactly you have to be straightforward in line with your scenario, all your answers in response to different questions. Make sure you are not diverting from the question. You understood the crux of the question, and accordingly, you are forming and justifying with your points, with your paragraphs and headings in line with the question. You are giving the right answer, inshallah. And the most important point to remember is every technical point have 1 mark. Every technical point is equal to 1 mark. So every technical point, that means we are not going to write any irrelevant kind of informations or any unessential informations. Even sometimes we think those are relevant but not supporting to the answer in response to any question. We have to avoid actually. Yes, we can take some words from the scenario, writing in our own words, and here required some practice. That is why I'm telling up to 1st December, it's a game of practice, practice, and practice. You take some scenarios, you create questions by yourself, you think like a trainee, you think like an examiner. You are resolving day-to-day a lot of issues and safety within your company. All are basically scenarios. And you can create questions according to the NEBOSH theories and start giving answer, and that practice will give you a comprehensive understanding. On the other side, we can get some old papers like scenarios and question and answers from the previous exams, that would also give us a solid reference. But ultimately, your target should be the best answers comparing to anyone actually. Because like if I wrote something, you should try to write something more, extraordinary, inshallah. And it's possible. It's surely possible. But make sure you play within the window, you play within the circle, and the circle is the scenario. And the most important thing, you truly have to do practice how to understand the scenario and how to understand the real crux of the question. And then answers are there. Answers are there, my friends, because you have, it's an open book. You can research, you have, NEBOSH books. I'll share the presentation also. So plenty of things you can get help, just to form your answer. But the key point is, what are the diamond words you are going to put in your answer sheet actually. So those words are important to choose. That is the real challenge, little bit. But once your concepts are clear, even that challenge wouldn't be a problem. So good luck, inshallah, for IG1. Now I'll go back to the presentation and we'll start discussing about IG2. And I'll share this exam sheet scenario and some of the previously I shared one scenario with 4 questions. So I will share the answers of those 4 questions also. Okay, so just right after the training, I'll be sharing, inshallah. Now let's go back to the presentation. So see what we are going to learn for. Now, the IG2, since it's a kind of a risk assessment project, And every company have risk assessment register, or maybe area wise, process wise, machine wise, management system wise, like separate risk assessment for fire risk assessment, noise risk assessment, you know on the other side, process risk assessment or general risk assessment. So company to company, several variables are there, but make sure that internal register. Now this is a time to reread again and again and understand your process, their hazards, relevant risk, the way you evaluated, and most importantly, what kind of controls you implemented. I'm talking about your internal risk assessment, because ultimately that would be helping you to put required informations as per the NEBOSH format, inshallah. Now, what is the criteria? Which is quite straightforward. You must use the table in part 2 of the assessment pack of complete risk assessment. You will not need to complete a risk assessment of your organization. You must find a record at least 10 different hazards. So that is important. 10 different hazards from 5 different hazard categories. That means from one category, we can take 2 hazards. I repeat again, total 10 hazards, but per category 2 hazards. It wouldn't be acceptable like from one category you are taking 4 different hazards, because that is not the criteria defined by NEBOSH. 10 different hazards out of 5 different hazard categories. For the avoidance of doubt, hazard categories for this assessment are the topic headings from element 5 to 11, and this is mentioned like these are the hazard categories: 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 total elements, 5 to 11. And what hazard categories are there? Noise, vibration, radiation. So out of 5 we can select 2, only 2. Either you get noise or radiation, or you get vibration or radiation, or radiation or noise. So it's up to you, but only 2 hazards you have to target from each category, each hazard category. Now from 6, are you going to take any, or you will ignore it? Because total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 categories are there, but out of 7 you can go with 5, and from the 5, from each category 2 hazards. So flexibility is there. Like if you believe you can write more better stories related to noise and radiation, so choose it. And then 2 from 6 if you want, like manual handling or load handling equipment, relevant hazards. And from 7 again, chemical biological. From 8, health, welfare and work environment. Only 2, work equipment and machinery, fire and electricity. So from each category only 2 hazards you need to select, and then go with your risk assessment project. Now, assessment criteria produce a risk assessment of a workplace which consider a wide range of identified hazards drawn from element 5 to 11 of the IG syllabus and meets best practice standards suitable and sufficient. So the real challenge is to make our risk assessment project suitable and sufficient. Again, we are there to convince the NEBOSH examiner. So we truly need to make our risk assessment project professionally attractive with the solid kind of informations which need to be suitable in line with the hazard or risk identified, and then accordingly we will give the sufficient information in shape of controls, or who might be harmed, or who will be responsible, or what kind of actions we require to take in. So bear in mind this risk assessment project surely we have to complete as per the guidance, as per the format of NEBOSH. And that format I hope you'll get in Word format from our examination department, inshallah. Might be few of you already could have received, I'll definitely check with them. So in the Word format, and one example we already shared. And that example, let me share with all of you by opening that, file, so we can have a discussion on risk assessment project. I'm just opening it. So let me just share that screen. I hope it is visible. Let me zoom in. Okay, so in a quick nutshell, total 4 parts are there of this risk assessment format, 1 to 4. It's kind of a declaration that by submitting this assessment, part 1 to 4 for marking, I declare it is entirely my own work. I understand that falsely claiming that the work is my own is malpractice and can lead to NEBOSH imposing severe penalties. You can read NEBOSH malpractice policy for further information. Important note is you must refer to the document Unit IG2, Risk Assessment, Guidance and Information for Learners and Learning Partners while completing all parts of this assessment. Your learning partner should provide you a copy, but it can also be downloaded from the relevant sources section for the qualification on the NEBOSH website. So 4 parts are there. The first part is all about the background. The background of your business, the background of your project, the background of your company, basically. And yes, this background should have 150 to 200 words. And what are you going to write? The name of the organization. If you don't want to highlight the name, then at least ABC something, site location, number of workers, and then general description of the organization. That means the context of the organization, the kind of introduction of that organization. Like IGG Limited is a medium-sized garage with offices, vehicle repair shop, and they did this. Same like Sadara is and company did this, that is the scope, and you can get it even from the website of Sadara, like about us. About us is always there in the website, and just get little bit information about your business activities, and then accordingly put within this cell actually. Then you have to describe the area to be included in the risk assessment. Out of your company, which area, which process or which department you are targeting, the scope of your risk assessment, in other words. The risk assessment will cover the garage that include the storage area and the spray booth activities. The office area has a separate risk assessment. So clearly you need to define what exactly you are covering within this assessment. Any other relevant informations? You can put in comment that finance director who reports directly to the managing director has directly responsible for health and safety. So you can write Mr. This is responsible as a health and safety manager and reporting to the managing director or the safety director of your company. So just share some responsible person's link, just as any other relevant information. If you are worried about confidentiality, you can invent a false name and location of your organization, but all other information provided must be factual. So just confidentiality is there. You can put a false name and location, no harm to it, but rest of the information, make sure it's factual. No, you should aim to complete this section in 100 to 200 words. Note, this section can be completed after you have completed your risk assessment. And what you have outlined here, outline how the risk assessment was carried out. This should include sources of information consulted, who you spoke to, how you identified what the hazards, what is already being done, and any additional control actions that may be required. So this section you can complete even after the assessment. So you would have more clarity and ideas to whom you met, what sort of hazards you identified, and most importantly, to whom you spoke up with and discussed, several kind of informations, and then you got a way out to complete your risk assessment project. Like I started by looking to see if the ILO
had any course of practice related to garage work. So according to the scope, no harm to find out any international regulations or local regulations are there, which I can refer. Especially here, the greatest help is the hsc.gov.uk. We can get some references from there. Any, like if you are targeting excavation process, get some regulations from OSHA or even from HSC UK or any other source, but make sure whichever process or whichever department or whichever kind of industry you're targeting for risk assessment, find out some reference. It will surely add value technically and give better insights to the NEBOSH examiner that you are not an ordinary safety professional. And that is the real purpose of this project. Now, after looking at sources of information, I then went around the workshop. So you are writing a long story, but in a short pattern, that how you visited, to whom you met, and you can give some examples, like good examples. You observed the masks were available, you observed a better housekeeping was there, uh, the employees' behavior was, something positive about that company. And then, of course, you can share some of these stories. Like following the inspection, I referred back to notes that I made during the inspection and the social information that I have already reviewed to help me to decide in any additional control measures that action are needed. So just a kind of a summary of your risk assessment project you need to put here into this column. Second part is all about risk assessment. You need to put the name of the organization, date of assessment, and scope of risk assessment, like workshop, stores, and supply booth. So relevant processes or departments you can write here. And then bear in mind, out of 5 categories, from each category, you need to select 2 hazards. Like you selected the category like hazardous substances. And the hazard you are taking, dust, high concentration of processed dust in the air. Now you are writing who might be harmed and how. Because of this dust, high concentration of processed dust in the air. So now it is logically possible to write who might be harmed. So all workers, customers, and other, visiting the organization, high concentration of processed dust are always present from the routine and frequent activities being carried out. Since there is no dust extraction, now you are justifying why they can be harmed. Who might be harmed and how. Who might be harmed and how. How means a full of some sort of details how those people can be harmed. And here again your your element number 5 to 11 would be helping you, or even through your research on HSC UK website, or maybe OSHA regulations, or somewhat your Royal Commission or Saudi Aramco standards, even somewhat they can also give you some insights, or your internal risk register. What are you already doing? The existing controls, dust mask available, but it is not mandatory that these are worn actually. So honestly, you are speaking up. What are you already doing? What further controls are required? Because this existing control is not sufficient. So for further controls and actions, you are going to write several stories. What controls you are going to implement one by one. So 1 to 14. Look at how many additional controls or further controls you are implementing. Like in closed area to be set up for sanding, grinding operations. So you are trying to reduce through exhaust ventilation system the impact of dust. You are going to purchase on-tool dust extraction systems. You are going to use face masks. Also consider RP, respiratory protection equipment, maintenance program for ventilation system, proper housekeeping. You are going to improve. Current system of processes you are going to improve. Updated on completion of employer training programs, safe system of work. So what you are trying to do is, with existing control, you are not okay enough. So that is why you are suggesting some further controls and actions. And what is the reason? To keep safe our employees and to bring that risk at acceptable level or as low as reasonably acceptable. And of course, whatever actions you are planning must be time bound, the time scale for further actions to be completed. And here again, technically, you need to justify. Like if you are saying enclosed area to be set up for sanding, grinding operations, and including that will include a suitable local exhaust ventilation system, and you give the number like within 1 week. So the activity, the time frame is not justifying actually. So make sure the moment you put time scale, it should be justified, attainable, even though the control is mandatory for sure, but still your time scale, you are going to make it time bound, but make sure it is justifiable. Like purchase of on-tool dust extraction system, 1 month. And who is responsible? Workshop manager for actions 1, 3A, 4, 5. So all actions, finance director, store manager. So you are noting down who is responsible for what, in the last column. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 columns are there. In other words, 6 headings are there. And for each kind of hazard category you choose, you need to mention and fill with comprehensive information. Like next hazard is work equipment. And why work equipment? Because falling vehicles or falling vehicles or the components. So who might be harmed? Mechanics could be injured. And how they can be injured? Workers undertaking maintenance of the equipment. If the equipment malfunctions during maintenance, this could cause a range of injuries, from bruising to fractures, or even worst case scenario, death. What are you already doing? Some sporadic like maintenance of lifting equipment, so which is not enough actually. So surely you need to go with some further controls and kind of actions. And again, you start with the numbers, like implement a planned inspection program, inspection and examination, check that insurance is in place. So number wise, but make sure you make them time bound and note down who is responsible for it. That is why I'm telling you internal risk register would be a great help. Now you are taking another category, electricity, then another hazardous substances, one more you collected from there. Safe movement of people and vehicle, noise, like excessive noise from workshop activities, slips and trips, working at height, even working on the top of the commercial vehicles, hazardous substances, and from here you are getting inhaling paint, mist containing isocyanates, vibration you are taking here, workers health fair, you are taking working on air conditioning systems, fire. So in the second part is all about to fill 10, selecting 10 hazards from 5 categories and filling these 6 columns, like hazard category and hazard and who might be harmed and how, and what are you already doing, like your existing controls, and most importantly, what additional controls you are recommending, and accordingly you make them time bound and who is responsible for them. Trust me, it's not a rocket science, but the point is the selection of your uh, professionally, technically sound words actually, and then accordingly you have to put who is responsible and what dates you are recommending to complete your task. Now, part 3 is prioritize 3 actions and justify the selection. Out of all above actions, you need to prioritize 3 actions that justify the selection, like suggested word count, moral, general, legal, and financial arguments for all actions, like 300 to 350 words for each action, specific legal argument, 100 to 150 words, likelihood and severity, like 75 to 150 words, how effective the action is likely to be controlling the risk, 100 to 150 words. So we need to prioritize 3 actions and justify the selection. How? Suggested word counts, and for moral, general, legal, and financial arguments, we can give 300 to 350 words, and for each action, 100 to 150 for legal arguments, for likelihood and severity, 75 to 150, and how effective the action is likely to be in controlling the risk, 100 to 150 words. So you will take each area like moral, general, legal, and financial argument, and you start writing and justifying why it is legally or morally or financially it's important to go for those actions, and you start justifying, like, this IGG has a moral duty to protect all workers. Here you can even bring some data from your safety policy, because safety policy is kind of your commitment, and you are highlighting your moral values through your safety policy also. That shows your commitment actually, that our workers come to work to earn a wage, not to be put at risk of. So worker safety is our top priority. And because of work activities, they carry out now some of the ill health conditions that could be contracted, or injuries that could occur will have a major impact of lives of workers. So you start writing stories why the moral, general, legal, and financial, or kind of arguments you are giving, and why those actions are important to put in place. Now, IGG has legal requirements to protect its workers under ILO Safety and Health Convention C155. So reference is important here. Financial impact, because we don't want to pay direct or indirect costs. Those financial impacts, of course, that is why we are going for further improvement of our processes, even to make them more safer. Then you also justify each action. You select three: action number 1, then action number 2, action number 3. So you take 3 actions. Like, action is purchase a mobile bridge to allow mechanics to be able to safely access both sides of the inspection pit when working at ground level. Hazard category is working at height. So you selected this action number 1. Now you need to justify specific legal arguments. You give some reference from legal grounds, maybe from ILO, maybe from OSHA, maybe from HSE UK. So you give that legal argument, and then consideration of likelihood of injuries occurring from working in and around the inspection pit is very likely. This is due to the, so you start justifying the likelihood and severity, but again, based on your technical understanding as a safety professional. So how effective the action is likely to be controlling the risk, explanation to include the intended impact of the action, justification of the time scale you indicated in your risk assessment, and whether you think the action will control the risk. So now again, you have to prove that the action what you decided, or the number of actions you have put in place in the risk assessment, are fully justified, and they can surely bring some better value to your business operations, especially for health and safety. Now, justification for action 2 is enclosed area to be set up for sanding grinding operations. Again, you give some legal arguments. You start finding the relevant references. You highlight what is the likelihood and severity, and how effective the action is likely to be. So you start writing and justifying, just selecting 3 actions, and you have to justify and give some legal arguments, and likelihood and severity must be explained, and most importantly, why those actions you believe could be bringing more safety, into that process. So technically, you need to justify. That is all about number 3. That means you need to select, prioritize 3 actions, and the format is already would be there in Word format. You can work proactively, even start from today to onward. Just have some practice rather than going directly for the NEBOSH format. Just make sure, according to the NEBOSH format, you have some initial homework or kind of practice before you fill the master format, which we're going to provide, as per NEBOSH requirements, inshallah. And the last part is all about review, communicate and check. Review, communicate and check. Definitely, you need to put some planned review date and period and reasoning for this, why you want to review it after 1 month or 2 months or 6 months, how the risk assessment findings will be communicated and who needs to know the information, and follow up on the risk assessment like 100 to 150 words. Planned review date period reasoning, like company policy is to review assessment on every 12 months. I therefore see the review date this, and you mention some dates as per the format, and how the risk assessment finding will be communicated and who you need to tell. I will arrange a meeting with the finance director, with some others, so sharing the risk assessment, and I will provide a summary of the findings and actions for the workshop. So you start writing the stories. So this is the best example because it is well provided by NEBOSH directly. So we are not going to divert from this example basically. Whatever we will write, our similarity, not kind of same to same, but the words we are collecting from our company or through our self efforts, make sure we are putting in the right place in a right way, logically and technically sound. And once it's all completed, of course, you have a learner number, your learning name, and total 19 pages are there. And once your project is ready, you need to submit to our examination department, to our institute, and then might be they could give some feedback. I don't have that idea, but usually we are not authorized to help. To be very honest, even for completing any of the portion of your risk assessment from our side, yes, we are giving you techniques, we are giving you proper, trying to give you proper trainings, but ultimately this is your responsibility to complete both exams honestly and avoiding any sort of any chance of malpractice, God forbid, because goodwill is everything. Your credibility, I'm sure it's not ordinary, right? So for your better goodwill, to maintain your goodwill, make sure you don't give any chance to NEBOSH to put any black spot on your professional career. So make sure you get interest, you get focused, and nothing is impossible. And bear in mind, Allah helps those who help themselves. I noticed several guys, they never ever work as a safety professional. They just completed their graduation and they went for NEBOSH, training. And after that, they achieved excellent marks, because they were focused, they were fully putting all sort of their energies, having proper planning and preparation for each segment, and doing everything by themselves. And to be very honest, NEBOSH examiners, it's hard to make them fool, to be very honest. They can easily judge either it is your work or you just copy pasted from somewhere else. And during the interview, of course, we, the learning partner, can also find out either it is your own work or you just got some help from others. Even though the informations and kind of knowledge is quite open, you can get help from any source, but the words you are finally going to write must be your own words, must be your own work actually. And good luck, guys. I hope it will give you some sort of detailed techniques, how you have to attempt IG1 and IG2. And good luck for your